Hello everyone, welcome back to another podcast from Fantasy Football Scout. And today we're doing something a little bit different. Life Without FPL is the title of the podcast. This is episode 1. So we might touch on FPL a little bit, but we're going to more talk about kind of more off-topic things. And today I'm joined by Neil and David. How are you doing, gents?
All right, Andy, yeah. How's things? All right, long time no speak.
Yeah, not bad. It's a bit weird like not doing videos every single week, especially for the team who's missing that one, Neil. How are you getting on, David?
Yeah, not bad. Obviously I've done a few of these videos over the last couple of weeks. We've been doing some things for ads, and obviously we talked about changes we can make to FPL. But I'm kind of looking forward to this kind of a bit off-topic stuff, talking about what we do outside of FPL. But you're right, it is very strange to have Neil on the screen, and I'm not anticipating some really obscure injury update from Bournemouth or something. It's very surreal.
Not nailing the Man City team 100% for another week. It's a shame, but hopefully we'll be back to that at some point. So just to give people who are listening kind of an idea of what we're going to do. So it's off topic. For the most part, like I said, we will touch on FPL a little bit. We want to kind of get you involved as well. So we've put out some tweets asking you what you're up to with the hashtag Life Without FPL. So I'm going to go through some of them in a second. We would encourage you to kind of send clips in, whether it's videos, screenshots, or just a quick tweet to let us know what you're up to, and we'll look to kind of add them to the video and podcast as we go. And today we're going to go through looking at what the community doing. So that's kind of focused around two big kind of FPL style games that the community are talking about a lot at the moment. Then a really brief look at our FPL teams and kind of the transfers we've made and whether we've got any strategy or whether we're just kind of writing the season off from this point. How we're coping with lockdown and kind of what are we getting up to outside of normal day jobs. So we're still working on some FPL stuff, but there's other things going on in the background as well. And then maybe some working from home tips, because we all do that anyway, regardless of whether there's a lockdown or not. So obviously a lot of people are kind of new to that at this point, but we're going to talk about that as well. So just to really quickly before we jump into it, I'll just read out some of the things that people are getting up to. A lot of it revolves around video games, which I can fully get behind. I'm going to talk about that later on. So Vigor, I think it is, playing Football Manager. I've really got back into that. At Finger Old is bacon, cheese and jalapeno loaf. I wasn't sure about the jalapenos there personally, but cheese is always good. Rags_Ankit playing FIFA. Again, I think video games definitely a common trend. Mark Leek said he was cleaning out his gutters, which is pretty much the same as managing his FPL team. So it's like a nice reminder for that. And then Yemi FPL, learning a new language, Spanish I assume, because they put the Spanish flag in the tweet, and watching movies. And I kind of wish I wasn't so lazy to learn a new language, because I'm one of those people that always says I would love to learn a new language, but do absolutely nothing to learn a new language. Like, I'm not completely ignorant. I'm not one of those people that goes away and just speaks English. Like, I will try and, use the lingua where I can.
Français, oui.
Yeah, I can order two beers in probably German and Spanish, and that gets me by. Like, so, yeah. Anyway, we'll talk about what the community are up to first. So I think most people who are really into FPL have probably seen this, but we'll go with the first one. So there's Championship Manager FPL. So they are using, it's Championship Manager 0102, I should say. So they are using a sim from the game back nearly 20 years ago now. So you've got the likes of Ian Hart, Ruud van Nistelrooy, all at their peak. And essentially, it revolves around FPL. So all the rules are kind of the same. 15-man squads, 100 million budget. They've priced all the players. The only thing that's not in there is price changes. So that's definitely worth checking out. Depending on when you listen to this, they've actually opened up sign-ups again. But I think they're only open until Saturday. So if you listen to it on Friday, you might still have time to check it out. So check out their Twitter feed. It's Fantasy Champ Man. Are either of you two getting involved with this? Or have you been looking into it much, Neil?
I'm not playing it myself, Andy. No, I as we'll discuss it in a little bit, I tend to stay off the fantasy games during the downtime. So when there's a pre-season or a close season after a long campaign, I tend to just stay off it because I need a breather. A bit like a 30-something footballer, like sort of retiring from international duty. I just need some downtime from FPL to prolong my domestic career. But I have been hugely enjoying it. I mean, they've really played a blinder with this. They've done it so well. I mean, it's three lads who, they don't write about FPL for a living. I think they've got other jobs as well on top of this. So they're doing this in their own time. So they're really giving a lot to the fantasy community. And just purely from a spectator point of view, I really enjoyed just watching the minute by minute play outs of the games and seeing these names from my sort of golden era of football. Really, I think from sort of mid '90s to early '90s, that was when I was really, football was all there was when I was young, and just seeing these names like Robbie Stockdale and Boudewijn Zenden and players like that. It's manna from heaven for me. And I think on Saturday I was just following the sort of live goal and assist updates going in, even though I had no vested interest in it. I've got a team. Just thought it was such good fun, and they've done it really well. And yeah, huge doff of the cap to them, because they've got a lot of sign-ups for it, and it's been massively popular. But yeah, I'm not playing it myself. I don't know about you, David. Are you involved?
I'm exactly like you, Neil. I always need that little bit of downtime, like a retired international footballer. Just domestic career. It's all about that, and that's what we have to focus on. But I'm exactly the same. I'm watching it with the vested interest of just I want to enjoy the narrative without the negative emotion of, I saw the other day Ian Hart missed a penalty, didn't you? I'm sure we can all feel that pain of having your player miss a penalty. But I mean, that's what I think is so good about it, is it's replacing even the negative emotions for people, that people feel numb and empty right now, and they miss making decisions about their team. Plugs very well into that. I'm going to show my age a little bit here, and when I say show my age, people normally mean about how old they are. With me, it's going to be how young I am. There's still a sentimental element of it for me. Less because it was my golden era, but because it was my first era. 01-02 was the first season that I really got into football. It was the first year that I collected the Premier League sticker book. And I feel really silly, because had I made the effort last night, I could have gone up in my loft and I could have brought it down. I could have had it right here for the video. Might have to show that on a later one, of all the old stickers of all those old players. So yeah, I'd see it, Ian Hart, Ruud van Nistelrooy. We got an article on site on Friday previewing game week, or double game week 4, I should say, with a double game week for Charlton. So some names I've not heard in a long time, like Richard Rufus, Jason Newell, Dean Kiley. It's just crazy. I mean, and it's just really cool. It kind of like, right now it's a strange time for people. So some familiarity in the sense of it's like FPL, but some familiarity and also an age gone by is something that's really nice for people. So absolutely right. I've got to echo your thoughts there, Neil. They played a blinder with it, really, and well done to them.
Yeah, I'll leave all the links below to the Twitter account, so you can go and follow the three guys that are running it, as well as the main account. You've made me feel really old saying 01-02 is when you first... I don't even think I'm that much older than you.
Sorry.
But it does make me feel old. I was actually thinking, to go off on a tangent a little bit here, I was actually thinking the other day, I have a really bad memory for kind of football gone, in the past. But I think my first ever memory is 94 FA Cup final, Man United Chelsea. And then when I think about the memory since, I think there's only two that I genuinely remember, other than, because like sometimes I feel like I've watched so many clips on YouTube, I actually just remember watching it on YouTube, not originally. But after that, it was 96, Gascoigne's goal against Scotland. And then I remember the 99 final, but I don't really remember the match. I just remember getting really excited at the end of the Champions League final. And my dad, because he's not into sports at all, he was watching it with me, but he went nuts because I was getting too excited. And then I had to go to bed. So like that's kind of my memories. I was thinking of that recently. So yeah, 01-02, I'm obviously a bit older than you. But yeah, I've been following it as well. And I wasn't able to sign up because I was actually... I was ill when the original sign-ups came around, but I'm going to try and get into it again. I should mention we're going to get Luke Disable on Twitter. I think it's actually FF Scout Luke now, who you will all know, I'm sure. He's been doing videos on it. He is massively invested in this game. I think he's been playing this since it came out right up until now. So he kind of knows it inside out. Obviously, he's got his team. He's been doing his game week reviews. So we're actually going to bring them to the Scout channel and the podcast as well. So there won't be one for this week for game. I think it's game week 4 now. But there'll be one. You can go and check that out on his channel if you follow him on Twitter. But there'll be one on Sunday, I believe. So we're going to get them out as well. So yeah, I've been following. I just thought the Ian Hart thing was hilarious because I know if I was playing, I would have had him penalty taker. All that.
Oh yeah,
and then to miss it. I actually think it was perfect that he missed that penalty because it was like proper FPL. Then if it had all gone smoothly, that would have been a bit boring. So
I'm really enjoying the kind of the bad things that are happening. Not that I wish it on people, but it's more just sort of like, it's like what's happened with me and Az when we do our football manager videos. Sort of like you look at these situations, it's so FPL. I think game week 3, all the big captaincy candidates like Henry, who obviously you would be considered for captaincy most weeks anyway. Van Nistelrooy, of course, was goal machine back then. I think Jimmy Floyd, Hasselbank, I think they were the big 3. One of them came off in the 59th minute. In the 59th minute, of all the minutes that the Championship Manager algorithm could have selected, the 59th minute was what they chose. One of them didn't play, and I think one of them blanked. And it's great.
Sorry, David. Yeah, go on. Yeah, so that's the thing, isn't it? It's even more extreme, I think, than normal FPL because the team selections can be just completely plucked out at random. I think Di Canio didn't he not play in game week 1? The team seem to change for no apparent reason, even when players are in form. I think didn't Chadwick play for Man United the other day out of nowhere? So,
I think it was Middlesbrough that didn't play, and we'll go. What is going on?
I've seen people doing their wild cards on Twitter, and they're basically saying like even more so than FPL, it's probably good to get a squad of 15 because the computer will just randomly kind of screw you over. But there is also another game that's been created as well to kind of help people get through some of the boredom, life without FPL, which is virtual FPL, which is run by Ragabolly, who a lot of you will know is the man. Even if you don't know his name, you'll know his site, which is livefpl.net, which a lot of people will use to kind of see their ranks as the game weeks go by on normal FPL. So I think you've been looking into that a bit, haven't you, Neil?
Yeah. Having said all that about not getting involved in an FPL game during the lockdown, I'll be involved in this purely for professional purposes, of course. I'll not be taking any enjoyment out of it. But yeah, it looks fantastic. It's as you say, Ragabolly, very, very clever man. I think he's 10 times as intelligent as the rest of us put together. I wrote in the article this morning. He's come up with this just since Premier League was suspended, so that's like less than a month. I think it was middle of March, wasn't it, when that went down? So he's been developing a game called Virtual FPL, which runs in almost an identical manner to normal FPL. So you get 100 million to pick a squad of 15. The rules are the same in terms of scoring. So 5 points from midfielder, goal, that sort of thing. Bonus points are even awarded as well. So it's really an advanced simulation. It's not just a random results generator. I wrote an introductory article on that on Friday morning. If anyone wants to check that out, it's free to play. Ragabolly's just done this in his own time. So it's rather than we're running a separate thing, as and David, about sort of simming the rest of the season to see how it would pan out and pitting teams against each other. This is actually starting from game week 1 of what is ostensibly the current campaign, because it's the 20 Premier League teams as they are now. All the player prices are as they are now as well. So you've got Salah, I think, it's 12.7, De Bruyne 10.6. The fixture tick is up there. He's thought of everything. There's friendlies you can arrange as well to sort of scout players. It's really good fun. I've been looking at this one. I haven't finalised my team yet. The game week 1 deadline is tomorrow. So if you're watching this on Friday, that's Saturday, 11th of April at, I think it's 7 o'clock British summer time. So do the calculations depending on where you are in the world. But yeah, getting a lot of sign-ups. And if you head over there, you can sort of see what it's like on a typical match day. So Ragabolly's going to be, I think, providing updates in a manner that Chapman FPL are doing, I think, on a weekend or whenever the game weeks are taking place. But I've ran a couple of simulations myself. And it sort of does a play-by-play account of the game in a manner that Champman won as well. Gives you the
like
lineups.
Text-based, isn't it, as well?
It is, yeah. I don't know how he's done it. I mean, to have done that in a couple of weeks, with all the players involved and all the, the sort of the overall league tables will be overall standards as there would be in FPL, like an OR, like the stats table as well. So he's a bit like the members area of our site. He's and every game you get a match report and it tells you which players have been the most involved in each attack. So, for example, Salah was involved more in the Liverpool-Arsenal friendly I ran. So, yeah, it looks fantastic. The effort that's gone into it. And again, much like the Champman fellas, all the credit goes to him because he's done a lot of work on this and just really glad to be involved with it. And we'll be writing about it on the site for ahead of the launch, which I've already done, and then hopefully going forward on a game week by game week basis as well. So, head over to Virtual FPL. I'll give you the. Have you got the web address there, Andy?
I'll put it all in the links
Okay.
on YouTube, and I can do that for the podcast. So I'll put them all below,
Cool.
like any links we talk about. I think the one good thing about it as well is there's a lot less manual work for him. I'd assume you can probably sign up whenever, even if you miss the game week 1 deadline.
Oh,
I
yeah.
assume, I could be wrong, that you can still sign up. So even if you listen to this after Saturday, make sure you go and have a look at that. All right, let's move on. Like I said, get in touch with the hashtag Life Without FPL if you're getting up to anything else or you've seen any other cool stuff, and we might talk about that next week. Now we're going to touch briefly on our FPL teams because we are doing a scoutcast next week on Tuesday. Myself, David, and Joe will be back for that. So we'll probably talk more about FPL in that one. But we will quickly touch on our FPL teams now, kind of what transfers we made, what our general strategy is. So I'm going to go first. So I think game week 29 was the last proper deadline. I did Firmino to Aubameyang, and obviously that was the double game week, captained Aubameyang, and then the game got cancelled, which is kind of, where everything kind of rolled on from there. And to be honest, so I saved a transfer the following week. So I just basically thought at that stage it was quite early. We weren't really sure just how much everything was going to be affected. So I just thought my strategy would be to roll a transfer each week. I know some people are holding their transfers because it gets them a higher rank. I mean, I got to be honest, I can't think of anything more dullard than holding a transfer for rank during lockdown. But I guess if you just don't want to have any interest in FPL, then fair enough. Like, it's not. I don't have any issue with that. But I've been making my transfers. My general strategy at this point is obviously try and get players in who've got good fixtures left. We, no matter what happens, if the season finishes, we know the fixtures that are going to be played. And I'm not. It's easy to say with my rank. I'm not writing the season off, but at the same time, like it is obviously important to me and important to people. But I don't really care what happens with my rank now. So I've got an opportunity to triple up on Man United. They were in good form anyway. They got fixtures left. I've used 2 free transfers. I've bought in 2 Man United players. Harry Maguire. I already had Fernandes, and I've got Martial as well. And I could have gone with Pogba, but who knows whenever he's going to be back. So yeah, that's basically mine. I took out Stevens for Maguire and McNeil to Martial. So yeah, that's kind of my general strategy, just bringing in players I like at this point, because ultimately no one knows what's going to happen. We don't know who's going to be in form when it comes back, and all that stuff. So what kind of approach have you taken, David?
Well, I just want to say, I think it's really sort of like ironic for you, Andy, in terms of your rank this year. You have literally the full complement of excuses you could possibly need.
Exactly, hacking and lockdown.
And then the whole world went on lockdown. It's just crazy. I mean,
but I
obviously
can't
Neale
have this excuse because Neale is absolutely smashing.
Neil's got the exact same one. I know. Yeah. I only have the coronavirus excuse, so I have less of an excuse to write off. I mean, but I kind of feel the same as you, Andy, in terms of so far removed now from when the season last happened. So I mean, what was it? Yesterday was a month since the last game. And it didn't exactly go well for me. It was the Leicester game where they thrashed Villa, and Perez was on the bench, and Barnes got 19 points, and Vardy, who I'd sold, had got a double-figure haul off the bench as well. So, it's in terms of how much I'm really pushing to get a fantastic rank for the end of the season. It is really hard to kind of like really put that on as much of a pedestal as I would have before. I mean, obviously, I'm still going to try my best, but I'm really just going to try and, whenever it comes back, just try and get through game week by game week basis, really. In terms of what I've done, you've obviously said it's the most dullard thing ever to just not touch it. That's kind of what I've done, unfortunately.
Okay, so
not because
let me rephrase that though. It's
like, it's fine. I wasn't offended. It's fine.
I know, but some people will be offended. Listen, I feel like I have to disclaimer this. Like, if you're not interested in FPL right now and you're not making transfers, then fair enough. But if you're just doing it to get a tiny rank increase, that is dullard. That's about as dullard as it gets.
I mean, that's not necessarily why I'm doing it, and it's not even because I'm not interested. It's more just the fact that I just don't know what it's going to look like. And I know obviously we can kind of look at what's left and who's got what games to play. But the thing is, I have a wild card as well, so I have something to fall back on if I need to make large number of changes. And right now I don't really want to be making loads of changes because like price changes are kind of all over the place. Like I really don't understand the market right now. There's price rises and falls all over the place. I've got value tied up in some players who I might want. I mean, I don't know. Like for example, I've got a couple of Arsenal players who got a bit of value in them because of the big interest around the game week 29, the double game week 29 that then ended up not being a double game week. And I'm a bit too reticent to sell anyone I've got in case I might want them back, and then I've got to pay more money for it. As I said, especially with the wild card to fall back on, I don't feel the need to make transfers. So it feels a bit annoying to kind of like have this 2 transfer just sat there, just kind of not accruing anything else, and I'm not being able to make changes to my team. But I really just want to know when the season's coming back before I start kind of like just sitting down in front of the team with the season ticker and the members area, working out exactly what I want to do and when. So I'm still paying attention to the situation, but it's very hard for me to. The thing is, I'm really nervous when I make transfers anyway. I mean, anyone who's watched The Breakfast Club before a deadline and I haven't made my moves yet, it's just 20-25 minutes of me going like, oh, should I do this? Oh, should I do that? And then the other person kind of has to sit there and be like, maybe you should do this, maybe you should do that. And then I just kind of like, yeah. So if I'm struggle, even when there's a deadline looming, when there isn't one looming, I'm never going to make a move. So we'll have to see. I'd like more information on when the season's coming back, really.
Yeah, I must admit, just quickly before Neil goes through it, I must admit, like, for me, I've taken out McNeil and Jack Stevens. Like, my thinking is they're not going to be the key to the end of the season. So, like, if it gets to the point where I'm taking out players that I might want to keep, I probably will just not make transfers. But yeah, I mean, McNeil was great for me for 1 week. I'm not sure he's going to be the key to get up the ranks when the season restarts. That's why I've kind of gotten rid of those players. How about you, Neil? How's yours looking?
Much the same as you two. I think I've not really done anything since when was it, Game Week 29 finished. So I've not made any transfers. I have been secretly enjoying the incremental green arrows, I have to say. Like, I am one of those shadows. I've only gone up about 50 places in 4 weeks, so it's not like it's really shooting me up the ranks. But yeah, I as Andy will know from asking me every week on the team news video about what my plans are, and I often say I don't know. And this is on a Friday. I generally leave stuff until the last moment. I'm like, have you ever seen the Meet the Manager with Tom, which was reassuring for me because he's far better manager than I am. He likes to leave everything until the last moment. He likes to get all the information possible, all the press conference updates, all the possible news about rotation, things like that, and sit down and look at all the stats in one go. I'm rarely make a transfer like on a Sunday night after a game week. So this is kind of in macrocosm, isn't it? This is writ large. So I'm not going to be making a transfer for 8-10 game weeks time without really knowing what I'm all the full information. I mean, there are a few things I will do. For example, Bruno Fernandes being one of them. I don't own him already, and he's someone I want. And there is dead wood to get rid of. Likes of Button I could upgrade on my bench if I wanted to, playing goalkeepers. Like David, I do have a wild card. So when it came to bench boosting, then I could just leave it with a non-playing goalie on my bench, and then wild card to have 2 playing goalkeepers. So there's one of the things I will be doing, I think, in the coming weeks and months. But for the large part, I'll be just leaving it be. I think the fact that I have got my wild card in play, this is a great period. If you haven't got a wild card intact, or say a free hit chip, then this is a bonus really, because it gives you a chance to do a gradual wild card. I think some people call it a slow wild card. Make transfers every week and overhaul your squad probably in its entirety, really. By the time we get to kick a ball again, we'll have had probably 10 game weeks without any matches gone by, because it looks like game weeks 36 to 38 are heading the same way. So that's 9 game weeks, I think. So you could make 9-10 free transfers with that and get rid of a lot of your squad. As you said there, Andy, I'll keep this brief. We do know the remaining fixtures to play. So I did an article about this yesterday, I think, frisking the fixtures based on popular demand, which shows how many people are still playing. Just looking at the block of fixtures rather than the order. So we do know, for example, that Man United have got a really good run in. I think they only play one of the big 6, if there's such a thing as that anymore. That's the fewest of any top 5 club. They've got the most matches against the bottom half of the table, along with City as well. So we do know that their fixture run is good. And we know that, for example, Crystal Palace is bad. They've got, I think, 7 of their remaining 9 matches against the top half clubs. So there are teams you can definitely pinpoint to either lump on or avoid. But the rest of them, they're kind of a mixed bag. And we don't know what order they're going to be in. It doesn't necessarily mean that game week 30 is going to be the next one to follow. They might be completely rearranged. Could be game week 37 first. We just don't know. There might not be double game weeks because the FA Cup could be held in midweek, so negating the need for a blank game week. There are, of course, 4 teams who've got an extra fixture, so they will have a double game week. So Arsenal, City, Sheffield United, and Villa. But there's just so much unknown, I think, at this moment that I'm loath to, as David said there, to mess with a team that I was largely happy with, give or take 1 or 2 players. And the likes of Aubameyang, who I might want to get rid of, he's still got 10 fixtures to play, and he might have a double game week straight away. So we just don't know that. So I'm not going to be selling many players between now and the resumption, at least until we get an update of the restart, of when the date is going to be, and the revised fixture list. Once that's out,
the key,
once that's out, then you can start making transfers, I think. But until then, I think I'll be leaving well alone.
All right, fair enough. Yeah, I guess, again, just disclaimer, I have used my wildcard. So, again, it's a bit more, worthwhile for me to make transfers.
You've got another one now.
Yeah, exactly. Well, again, no, I'm going to clear the deadwood, but after that, I'll probably just start to leave it. All right, let's move off of FPL. After saying there wouldn't be too much FPL, we just talked about FPL, but we're coming off of it now. So we're gonna talk about kind of lockdown, how we're coping with it, before we talk about more like working from home tips and stuff like that. Because like I said, we have been doing it for a while now. You two even longer than me. So we'll start with you, David. How, in general, obviously it's a really bad situation. How are you kind of how are you coping? Because obviously, everyone's finding it tough, and I'm sure people have got different kind of coping mechanisms for what's going on. So how are you dealing with that?
Yeah, I mean, it is tough. I mean, I think it's tough for everyone, as you say, and it's all sort of, I think, for lots of different reasons. So, for example, people who have kids, it's difficult. I'm obviously one of those, you're as well, Andy, and it's tough because you finally understand why teachers are so important, because they are trained to have the skills of patience for looking after your kid all day, and when your kid is kind of stuck inside and they don't have too much to do, then they're not themselves as well, and then that's quite difficult to deal with. But I do sort of consider myself lucky because, like, I have a garden, so if the kids get too awful, I just stick them outside. But I tell you what, something that really kind of pulls on my heartstrings is the way my kind of like house setup is. I can see kind of council buildings that are quite tall that can see my garden and my street. We all have gardens, and I feel really sorry for those people because they're stuck inside and they don't have any of that green space to let their kids run in. So, and so that's a problem that I don't have. So then that's what I mean. Like, it's different for so many different people. So I can work from home. Not everybody can do that. So then there's problems there as well. I think really just the important thing is just kind of working out exactly where the issues are and just trying to find some positive things to get through it. Because as I said, everyone is different. For us, the biggest challenge I think is the children. And we just have to try and work out ways of helping them be engaged and keep things positive and not let them feel kind of like, because they're not going to understand what's going on. You've got to just try and rise above that. And doing that takes time. I think I'm more settled into it than I was at the start. I'm kind of more used to it now. You mentioned there about working from home. I've done that for coming up on 2 years now, working for Scout, and I must say that there's some things from that have kind of helped in this process for me, because I don't go out as much as I used to, being a home worker, and with kids as well. So the mindset of just being in my house is easier to get into. But if there's people out there that are struggling right now, sort of in terms of how to work from home and kind of separate like your life in the house from your life in at work, I mean, it's not the same for everyone, but one big tip I always sort of say is, if you can find some space in your house that you kind of protect, and you basically say, this is my working space. And it takes a little bit of time to get used to that kind of mindset, and just kind of like drum it in. This is where I work. This is where I work. And then when I'm not in this place, I don't. And communication with the rest of the family is important as well. So, for example, because we've been doing this for some time, like my wife and my kids kind of respect this room I'm in right now. It's like my office. And then it means that so far, I'm amazed, in 2 years, we haven't had a BBC Dad moment. I don't know how that's happened. But, it's all about sort of communication with the rest of the family and helping them understand, like, just kind of, because if I was in an office building, they wouldn't be able to just kind of knock on the door, walk in and interrupt and what have you. But at the same time, the flip side is I don't talk to anyone all day. So it's kind of like I sit in this room all day for 8 hours mostly, and I just have no one to talk to, which has some pros. Like, I feel like I'm more productive in this environment than if I was in an office environment chatting to people. But at the same time, you kind of feel yourself going a little bit crazy, and you kind of sort of like forget what it's like to kind of interact with people in quite the same way. But so then at that point, you just have to, I feel like I just have to rely on kind of on the technology that we have. That's something that I've had to do in the last 2 years of this. I haven't been in lockdown, but I feel like I've been phased into it, if that makes sense. Making sure that you kind of like regularly Skyping people that you don't sort of like know, like don't have access to. So for me, I live really far away from my family, so we did that quite a lot anyway. We've been doing sort of like quizzes on Skype. We've been doing board games over the internet as well. And obviously you can do the same with sort of computer games as well. Maintaining that contact with your friendship group, I think is really important. And it's something that has helped me kind of adapt to working from home. And then now that everybody's kind of experiencing that, I think it could be helpful for them as well. So yeah, very challenging time. But yeah, Andy, you've been kind of trying to stay positive and try and read as little of the news as possible. I hear.
Yeah, like you may have heard, seen him on Twitter. So there's a guy called hopefully he doesn't mind me saying this. A guy called Jeff Holt, who's always really involved with the community. Right, follows all the creators, has the Creator League and stuff like that. And he actually asked in a group chat, like, how are people kind of getting on with it? It's obviously a scary time. And all that kind of thing, and I'm trying to take the positive. Like, obviously, is nothing really too positive about this situation, and I think a lot of people. It's not like I'm not avoiding the news and social media. Like you see me on Twitter all the time, so I'm not avoiding social media. But in terms of the news and stuff, I feel like you can kind of get bogged down with following it all day, every day. Like in terms of what I have to do is stay at home. That is not going to change for a long time, I would say, or weeks at least, probably maybe even months at this point. We just don't know. But that's not likely to change. And when it does, I'm pretty sure I'm going to hear about it pretty quickly from a lot of kind of sources. So I'm not too worried about that. I think in terms of all I can do is stay at home. So I don't need to be following the news all day, every day. Like I will check in on it and see what's going on, see if there's any updates. Do I need to restrict movements even more and stuff like that. But I really, and to be honest, this is kind of a tip even outside of lockdown, is you can just get bogged down with bad news in social media. So I'm trying to avoid that. And in terms of positives, again, I'm just trying to look for the kind of little things that are kind of better. Like even though I work from home generally, or I do work from home, I still have to do a lot of commuting just because of the school situation and stuff like that. So I'm not having to do that. That's great. There's more time with the kids at the moment. Like usually he's at school for 6 hours a day, 6 or 7 hours, whatever it is. And he's at home more now, which it could be a positive or a negative, depending on how you look at it. Because obviously, like you said, there's a lot of
depends what age they are. So
yeah.
my kids are quite young.
Yeah.
So
just
want to clarify.
10.
Yeah, I don't hate my kids. It's
No.
just if they're 3 and 2, they're very hard work. You have to man mark them the whole time.
Yeah, no, like I don't think anyone thinks anyone hates a kid, but I think when you do it, it is tough. Like doing, I'll be honest, on a normal day, homework is the worst part of my day. It is an absolute nightmare. He doesn't want to do it. As soon as one thing goes wrong, the whole day is ruined. So having to do all that schoolwork, I've got a lot of respect for teachers already, but even more so now. But like thinking of the positives, so there's stuff like that. And to be honest, and maybe this just makes us bad people in general, but I've actually been speaking to people, like friends and stuff, more than I probably was before. Like I've made the effort to go and like one of my friends is actually a GP. So I've made the point to kind of ask him how he's getting on. And he's kind of a bit jokey, not about the situation, but oh yeah, it's fine, not really busy at all kind of thing. So I've been speaking out here, and we've got a poker night set up for next week. And we haven't played poker for a long time, but now we're going to figure out how to do it online. Just because kind of everyone's just kind of bored. So I've been trying to just think of the positives. And in terms of coping with it, I think I'm trying to stay routined as much as possible. So it's not lazing around in bed all morning, putting off work and stuff like that. It's getting up, doing exercise. I'm almost you've probably seen, if anyone that follows me on Twitter, all the FPL Fit kind of updates. But I'm kind of more determined now there's all this going on to kind of say, screw you to the situation. I'm going to come out the other side either in as good a position or even better, and not just let myself go again. So yeah, it's trying to stay positive. I'm not one of those people that wakes up, everything's positive, because life isn't like that. But you have to try and kind of find the positives where you can. So yeah, I find I'm coping with it all right, because I'm kind of, I've got a big passion for video games. So when I'm not doing FPL stuff, I like to do that anyway. It's why I don't mind international breaks and stuff like that. So yeah, it's going all right so far. But obviously, realistically, we're still in quite the early stages of potentially lockdown. So it's only going to get harder, I'm sure. But yeah, so far, so good-ish, I would say. How about you, Neil? How are you getting on?
Yeah, all right. I mean, in some ways, the 9 to 6 day-to-day tasks haven't really changed that much, because we were home working anyway. Our shift patterns have kind of stayed the same. We're working a Monday to Friday pattern rather than weekends now. So during the days, it's not much has changed in a sense. Finding articles to write about something's a bit of an issue, but sort of branched out into esports now and management sims and things like that. We asked viewers to commission an article. So the job I'm not really finding any problems with. I still like writing about stuff. We've got an opportunity to write, long reads now, branch out and write about subject matters that we just wouldn't have time for during a routine game week. So that's been good. Outside of that, it kind of gets a bit frustrating in the sense that, especially now the weather's getting nicer, the nights are getting lighter, you'd be going out and, going to restaurants, going to pubs and that sort of stuff. But it's in perspective, in context, these are real sort of first world problems, really. I mean, all I truly bothered about now is seeing everybody healthy through this, all my sort of family and friends and that. And it's a small term sacrifice, really, for hopefully some long term gains. And the sooner we sort of just adhere to the guidelines and stay indoors, and the sooner we can get back to normality in the end. But it's I'm not going to say it's easy, but it's kind of been going through the lockdown 101, home workouts via YouTube, cooking, doing a jigsaw. Just ticked all those boxes. I think learning a language will be next. I think you can get sort of paralyzed by the options. There's so much to possibly do with your time. It kind of reminds me of being in my 20s again when I was in London, and every weekend there'd be so much to do. There'd be all this stuff to do, all these parties to go to, museums to see, and I just end up staying in and playing FIFA. Because there's just there's so much to do now. We're a lucky generation in that we've got so much to do at our fingertips, on our tablets and via the gift of the internet. So we shouldn't be spoiled for choice. It is, of course, it's not easy not being able to go out and see family. I think that's the main thing. See family and friends. That's the real struggle, because no matter how many times you ring them and see them on WhatsApp chat, it's not quite a like for like replacement. So that's the hardest part, I think. But we're the relatively lucky ones, aren't we? Like us three in our jobs, we don't have to go into the front line. We see, people putting their lives on the line to save others and to keep sort of services running and that. So I'm not complaining about anything, really. I mean, we've got it lucky in the jobs we have. We've got jobs still. We're able to write about this and get paid for it. So I'm sort of counting my blessings amongst all this, and just much like you two, just trying to see the positives where you can. Try not to get too downbeat about the whole thing. I know that the news is a barrage, really, especially sort of rolling news coverage on BBC 24 and all that. But giving it the respect it deserves without being completely sort of poor-faced about the whole situation. But I
think you kind of nailed it there. Like I'm kind of the same. Like I've got just going to the supermarket, I've got massive respect that they're still there working. They've got the perspex up in front of them and stuff, but it's not, it's not the ideal situation at all. So I'm definitely not kind of ignorant to what's going on around me, and just grateful, I suppose, and just trying to get on with it, because at the end of the day, like it's a really horrible situation, but if all you have to do is stay inside, then just do it. Like, I think because we know there's an end goal, right? At least it's not like this is going to be forever. So that's the kind of way I'm trying to talk about. And I think it's actually, because you were saying about learning languages, and I mentioned it as well. I think I feel like I saw someone sum it up well, that it feels like in some respects LinkedIn has come to Twitter. Like, you got all this time now, you should be productive. But I also think it's okay that when you finish work, if you want to chill out on the sofa and do absolutely nothing, then just do nothing. You don't have to do all this stuff. Like, learn a new skill if you want to, and if you've got the time. But if you don't want to, just stick to your normal life as much as possible, and do what you want.
I'm completely with you in that.
Yeah.
It's a bit sort of. I mean, I love social media when it's doing the right thing, but sometimes it can create a little bit of pressure that it's not necessarily even intending to create. Because if you've achieved something, and then you've got every right to sort of share that and say, "Hey, look what I've done, look what I was able to achieve during this period." But it can sort of create that little bit of pressure, can't it? Sometimes, and I felt it a little bit at the start when I was really jealous, because a lot of people were just like watching so much stuff on Netflix and reading so many books, and Disney Plus obviously came out, so there was sort of, as Neil was mentioning, there's just so much you've got available to kind of watch. And there was always a bit at the back of my mind seeing people being able to do this, do that. And I couldn't because of my kids. And it kind of like was sort of like, it's a bit of a shame that I can't do that. But then I kind of realized that, like you mentioned there, if everything was normal, you wouldn't be bothered about the fact that so-and-so has been able to watch all of the Tiger King in a day rather than one episode a night. It just wouldn't bother you. If you want to do nothing, then do it. And just maybe at this sort of time, because you're going to probably be spending more time on social media because you've maybe got less to do, just try and kind of put a filter in place and be like, if you see someone doing something that you'd love to do, like, yeah, that kind of sucks, but just kind of focus on what you can do. And if you enjoy relaxing, then just do it. Yeah, I think that's a really strong message to send out to people. Don't feel like you have to come out of lockdown having written 12 novels and like completed every game on your Xbox and watched everything on Netflix. Like, it's just, you just do what you can.
Well, this is a great segue from saying, do nothing if you want to. What are we actually doing when we're not at work? So I'm going to go first. So you mentioned video games just there, and that's kind of something that I've been doing a lot. Like I said already, it's kind of it's one of my passions. In fact, my job before working at Scout was working for EA. Worked on loads of different titles, including FIFA. So video games is something I really like. And there's a game that's just released today. It's actually, some people have already had it for kind of the last few days just because of they shipped physical copies a bit early because of everything that's going on. But I got the digital version, which is Final Fantasy VII. So I'm not sure if either of you have played that. But that originally came out in 1997. And a lot of the times, like when games are redone, they just get re-released, but in HD. But this one's been completely remade. Like it's graphics that are for this time, basically. Obviously, nothing like they were back in 1997. So I'm really looking forward to playing that. I don't usually finish story games, but I've got a feeling this will be one I do. So that's going to take up my time. A few of my mates have already finished it. They reckon it's about 35 hours. So that's going to eat into a bit of time. And I've also got hooked back on Football Manager. So the first one I played was Championship Manager when it used to be called that in 97, 98. So that was the first one I ever played. And up until about 2015, I bought them every year, but I haven't really bought them because they just got a bit complicated and there's just so much to them, which is great if you're really into it, but if you're a bit more of a casual, which when it comes to FPL, maybe I'm not, but for Football Manager, I definitely am. They're a bit more in depth, but I've kind of got a bit used to it now, and you can get your assistant manager to do a lot of the stuff. So I've kind of been doing that. When I was ill a couple of weeks ago, I was watching a lot of Netflix as well. So I've not watched Tiger King, although I've seen a few clips with my partner.
You probably should, if nothing else, just to understand Twitter or Facebook right now, because that's all there is Tiger King memes. It's become essential reading and essential watching, I'm afraid. So sorry.
I know. I've actually Louis Theroux did a documentary on him a while back, which I did watch. I think it was only one. It might have been one episode. I can't remember exactly. So I already know how crazy the whole situation is, and I have seen bits as my partner's been watching it. So I don't know if I'll go and watch it. The one thing that I did watch a lot of episodes was Dirty Money. Have either of you seen that?
No.
Afraid not. Sorry, Andy.
So basically, it's like an hour-ish long episodes. I mean, to give you the brief overview, it's very rich people or very rich companies. They're bad, if you can believe it. They're very greedy, and they don't necessarily do things by the book. So it's worth a watch if you're into that. It does kind of make you a bit angry, and in some, for a couple of episodes, a bit sad, like how people who just don't have much money, and obviously especially compared to all these giant corporations and stuff, kind of get screwed over. It's actually quite sad. But yeah, that's worth a watch. So yeah, that's kind of things I've been doing, just watching Netflix. I think Netflix actually, funnily enough, they've had to reduce the Ultra HD showing. So I think if you pay for Ultra HD, you can only watch it in HD now, which again is a massive first world problem. Because it just can't take the data that's coming in, so it's obviously getting used quite a lot for obvious reasons. So yeah,
that's for working from home stuff as well. If it wasn't for that, we wouldn't be able to film this video right now, all on the same Skype call. So
yeah, to be fair, like I'd say a lot of the tech companies, they have kept up stuff like this pretty well. So yeah, that's kind of what I'm doing: video games and Netflix outside of walking the dog and all that kind of stuff as well. How about you, Neil? What are you getting up to?
I was quite intent on not doing anything football related for a while. It's important to broaden your horizons a bit, but like a dog tied to a lamppost, just keep sort of boiling back towards football related activities. So I did end up watching the Newcastle Man United game from '96 in its entirety. I think I watched the 2001-2 season highlights package of the weekend. That was when we finished, was it third under Bobby Robson? So yeah, I've been gradually gravitating back towards football. I did watch the Match of the Day programs on Saturday night, which normally I don't really like Shearer and Wright as pundits, but just to hear their voices again, it was like seeing old friends. And even the theme tune, the Match of the Day theme tune, gave me actual goosebumps. Like listening to it. I haven't heard it for a month. But yeah, I try to do other stuff. I've been reading a bit more. Not highbrow stuff by any stretch, not James Joyce or anything, but I've had a Robin Williams biography that I got for Christmas, so I've been reading that. Watched a couple of films on Now TV, which are quite good, Force Majeure and Shoplifters, which I'd recommend, very good. And I bought, it's almost like a sort of a premature midlife crisis. I've been going through various activities. Bought an internet radio when this was on the cards, the lockdown. I think one of my last outings, when I tied it in with a shopping trip. So I wasn't just going out to buy an internet radio like some nutter. I bought one of those, and yeah, I've been keeping myself occupied like a saddo, just tuning into stations around the world, and Radio Asda, Orkney FM. Going through the whole.
Hang on. Radio Asda is in the supermarket.
Yeah, if you're missing those shops to Asda and you can't get out on more than a once a week basis, then you can tune into the in-store radio station. I highly recommend it. You can find out what their offers and.
Yeah. Does it have the announcements about who should come to till 7 or anything?
Unit to aisle 4. Yeah, no, sadly not. That would enhance it. So yeah, I've clearly I've been filling my time very widely. Spending time with the other half as well. God bless her. I mean, you talk about your kids. So he's been a handful. I think she's now reached the end of her tether with me because, I've been winding her up no end. I think she's thankfully for her, she can still go out to work. She works for the NHS, so she's actually been glad to get out the house away from me, bothering her on a 24-hour basis. So
yeah, I want to know, Neil, what exactly about you annoys the other half. I mean, I kind of envisage perhaps there was that David Squires cartoon a couple of years ago where he envisaged Peter Drury at home just kind of commentating on everything. You're a bit like that with team news updates. Sit down there, start telling her about Leroy Sané's leg.
Yeah, very much so. Yeah, there's some great stuff on Twitter actually about. Have you seen? Is it Andrew Coulter? Andrew Cotter, the golf guy? He's been commentating on his dogs, and there was a cracking one yesterday. But they're trying to go for the same toy. And Tilsley's been doing stuff, hasn't he? But his wife's making lasagnas.
They're so good.
Yeah. There's a bit of that. Yeah, there's I think the Simpsons episode when the teachers go on strike and Lisa says, "Evaluate and grade me. I need some kind of assessment." It's a bit like that, really. I need an outlet for my Eddie Howe hate. So I need to get out that energy somehow. So
I'm fed up of hearing about Eddie Howe.
Yeah,
my partner just she generally just lets me get on with it. Like I'll go down, I'll try and explain why I need to be up in the office for the next kind of half an hour. Like I'm editing, then I'm rendering, then I got, and she's like, yeah, whatever. Just come back and see me when it's all done. So I'm just completely out of the way in the office. How about you, David? What are you getting up to at the moment, outside of normal day-to-day job, of course?
Yeah, I mean, I obviously I was a bit like Neil at the start. I tried to just kind of give myself a break from football just for a little bit. We're quite used to it, really. Me and Neil, international breaks, we'd take a bit of time away from football. If there's a summer without an international tournament, we'd do the same. I did slowly start coming back. The match that I watched in its entirety was because I got it on DVD still to this day. Is Germany 1, England 5. I mean, I had to watch that one again. And what's really funny about it is we scored a fifth goal in like the 66th minute. I still watched the last 25 minutes, even though I know we're not going to score. And a couple of times, we thought, is it the post? Oh, it could have been even worse. It's a game that happened 20 years ago, and I'm still getting involved in it. So yeah, that was good fun. In terms of Netflix, I've watched The Tiger King. So if anyone out there wants to have a chat about that on Twitter, then come my way. It's oh man, what a mess. I mean that in an entertaining
it's nuts.
way.
Like, it is absolutely crazy. The whole situation, every single person in the documentary is just off their rocker.
Yeah, I mean, you just couldn't write this documentary. It's mad. And the weird thing is, you kind of get the impression they've been working on it for a long time. They've been following this story for ages. So from the time they made the decision to start covering the story, it's got better since then, which just makes the documentary just completely crazy. So I definitely, if anyone out there's not seen it, you should watch it. And as I said earlier, if nothing else, just to understand what everyone is talking about on Facebook and Twitter, it'll act as almost like a translator tool for your timeline, to be honest. But I haven't just been watching. Netflix in my house is a bit like a tennis match, because me and the wife have so much. Our interests are so different from each other that we basically sort of I'll suggest something to knock the ball over the net, and then because I've made her watch something I like, I've got to watch something she likes. So that's how it goes. Yeah, Neil gets it. It. So with us, I discovered quite early on into the lockdown that the wife had never seen the Oceans film, like Oceans 11, 12, 13, which I mean, I'm not saying they're the best films ever. I mean, the first one's quality, but I just couldn't believe she'd never seen it. So I made her watch them, but then I had to watch Pitch Perfect. It's just the first
Compromise.
I
That's what it's all about.
Yeah, that's relationship. I mean, if we're talking about advice for lockdown, that's the kind of thing that's going to get you through this. Seriously, Pitch Perfect 1 is kind of like it's different enough, like it feels like different enough to kind of enjoy. And then 2 and 3 are just trash. They're rubbish. So if the missus is going to make you watch any trilogy, I don't know, just make sure it isn't that one. But in terms of sort of like other passions that we've got, like Andy, obviously you like your computer games. For me, it's kind of science fiction books is kind of like what I'm really into. So anyone who read my article on the website probably a week and a half ago, just talking about what I've been getting up to, just been trying to read as much as possible. Because last year I bought loads of books and I just accrued loads of books because my New Year's resolution was get more books. And I just didn't read any of them. But then my 2020 resolution was to read more of them. So I've been kind of working my way through some of those. I mean, a lot of it's quite obscure, so I'm not gonna bore you with a long list of stories you've probably never heard of. But it is kind of nice having some time in the house in the evenings when the kids are in bed, just to kind of catch up on something. Like we were talking earlier about, do you want to feel productive during this time? Yeah, so I feel like if I'm just kind of getting through a backlog of books that I want to read, then for me that's ticking a box of feeling productive, but at the same time kind of also enjoying something, because a lot of them are quite good. I mean, other sort of things connected with that, I like to do a little bit of fiction writing myself, so that's another area where I can just feel like I'm being productive. And to be honest, in the current situation that we're all in, sometimes getting things that are kind of in your head down on paper can make a real big difference if people are sort of like looking for ways as an outlet for different ways to deal with it. I mean, like I've done a few blogs on what it's like to have kids in lockdown, something like that. Yeah, I mean, obviously I write for work anyway, so I mean, I'm kind of used to kind of getting ideas down on paper, but doing it outside of football as well is quite enjoyable. So yeah, very much revealing myself as a bit of a science fiction nerd with this whole little final bit. I mean, I'm obviously wearing my Doctor Who t-shirt. I've got my Lego Millennium Falcon behind me. So if you didn't already know that about me, you do now.
We all play
That is very
fantasy
much your
football. The
room,
nerd thing is fine. The nerd thing is fine. The one thing going back on the compromise, like that's why like a lot of people like complain, my partner's watching like Love Island or something like that, and I just think, well, that's fine, because at the weekend there's 3 or 4 live games on, and I know I'm going to be wanting to use the TV, so I just kind of do that. And yeah, if you are wanting to do something, not nothing, like this is the perfect time to start that blog you always wanted to start, or start that YouTube channel. Like I've always thought to myself, I've obviously got my FPL channel and stuff. I'd always like to just do games like on the side. Like, so I've just literally done that yesterday. I finally got around to creating that after talking about it a lot. So yeah, there's obviously, do nothing if you want, but there's plenty of time potentially to do that kind of other stuff. So let's finish off with just some quick working from home tips. Obviously, a lot of people have been doing it now, so they've probably got into a bit more of a habit of how to do it, or what some of the kind of best things you could do when you're working from home. We'll start with you, Neil. What are your kind of like things you've learned while you've been working from home that are kind of good thing to have, just get through it basically, because it is much different. Like I come from working from an office, so it is much different working from home.
Yeah, I'm kind of a veteran of this because I did it in my my previous job as well. So I think for the last part of 10 years, I think I've done this on and off. I did it once before, I think mid-noughties, and I found it very, very hard. I sort of missed the day-to-day interaction, and then got a chance to do it again when I didn't quite like my colleagues as much, and I quite relished that. Not this job, I should add.
I was just going to ask.
Yeah. So yeah, I've done it for probably most of the 2010s. I think most of the tips are probably going to sound quite almost to the point of patronizing, because it's basics really to get you through the day. I think as David said, I think it was David you said earlier, Andy, having a separate room, a separate environment where you can just go to, and that is your workspace, and then to leave that behind at the end of the day. I like to do that. I tend not to sit on the couch and work on my laptop, because that's where I go in the evenings. My sort of 2 sort of major things I do is go for a walk when I can on my lunch break. Not always possible during the season, because especially on press conference days when it's really busy. But if I don't get out on my lunch, I'll go out in the evening. Not just for the physical benefits, because we're in quite sedentary jobs, being sat at a computer all day, and it is important to get out for a bit of exercise. I like the mental benefit as well, not just associated with exercise, but just leaving the house, getting some fresh air and seeing other people and, getting a bit of nature. If you're lucky enough to live somewhere near some green space, as I am, I do like to do that. And the other one is kind of a bit more health-based, I suppose, is if you've got the ability to stand up for any length of time and work, then do that, because obviously there's risks associated with sitting down for an extended period of time. If you're doing that for 9-10 hours a day, which is what we sometimes do when we're really busy at work. I've now got it's not an official standard desk as you can get, but I've adapted a nearby linen closet, and I plunk my laptop on top of that and stand up for most of the day now, just because it is a slightly healthy way of working. I'm not sure if health and safety would pass it. I think if Gareth Keenan came around, I might have some problems with my setup. But I think to get up off your bum and stand up for a little bit when you're working is quite a positive, I find. Because there are sort of, without getting too deep and depressive about this, there are obviously health risks associated with sitting down for a long period of time. So that's what I tend to do.
Yeah, I completely agree. Like, I don't have a standing desk, and I used to do this even when I worked in an office. Like, I make sure I get up. So my office is upstairs, so I get up quite often. Even if it's just go and get a drink or something, just walk downstairs, walk back up, just to not be. Yeah, if you're constantly sitting the whole day, is not good for you. One tip I will give people, which I made a big mistake. So I've been working from home as long as you two. So I've been since November is when I joined Scouts. It's about 5 months. Before that, I overworked. I only really had two main jobs before that. One was at EA, where I did a variety of jobs over 8 years. And then before that, I worked at Curry's. So I was like a salesperson in Curry's, the electrical store, which I absolutely hated. And if I can avoid ever going back to doing that again, I will. So I kind of always stood up, and even in the office, I would go and sit around. But yeah, 5 months now, I've been working from home. The biggest mistake I made, which this is very niche, and don't get me wrong, not a lot of people are going to do this, but we decided I'm working from home. We couldn't get a dog before that because, you don't want to leave them in the house kind of 7, 8, 9, 10 hours a day. It's not fair on them. So I'm working from home. Great, we'll get a dog. So I decided to bring home my puppy the day I started working for Scout, and that was so. I'm not someone who really gets stressed. I'm quite laid back about stuff. I don't panic about work. I'll get it done, by the end of the day or whatever. But having a new 3-month-old puppy the day you start a new job working from home was so stressful, because they just constantly want attention. I had to keep going downstairs to the sofa, working on my laptop, and it was just a nightmare. And luckily, she kind of, is more settled now. But that's very niche. Don't get a puppy the day you start a new job working from home. It is an absolute nightmare. But otherwise, the one thing I found, it's a bit different now, obviously, because we're locked into the house anyway. But the one thing I found really hard at the start was some days it's just not as busy, because, you might work a couple of less hours one day because you're going to work a couple more hours another day, which is absolutely fine. But I found when I first started, I couldn't take myself away from the computer. I felt like if I was being lazy, like if I wasn't locked to my computer for those hours, even if I was doing more hours like the next day, I felt like that was bad. So you've got to get out of that habit of being if you've done, because for me, when I was at EA, a couple of times I used to work from home, I was more productive because I was worried that they were going to think I was slacking. So I kind of say this to my partner, like, if you've genuinely finished all the work you'd usually do in a day because you're not being distracted by people, shut the laptop off. Like, you've done your work. You don't have to be locked to it. So that's one piece of advice I would give. And it's a bit more difficult now, but I really do think stay in a routine. Get up and get showered and dressed. Like, don't, it's great. Like, I could be wearing boxers right now. I am wearing boxers. It's not the only thing I'm wearing. I should say. I don't want to make that sound too weird. But yeah, just get up and get showered and dressed. Like, it does make a big difference. It's like you started your day then. Which, again, like Neil said, it's kind of basic things, but that's kind of what I've learned. So get showered. Don't buy a puppy is my advice. How about you, David? Anything to add?
Yeah, I mean, I'd echo most of that, especially the idea that if you're at home and there's no sort of colleagues around, you are probably going to be more productive if you're going to be distracted less by other people. But one thing just that I always wanted to guard against at the start, because I felt like I could slip into it. Thankfully, I never have. And it's difficult when you're working in and around social media quite a lot. If there aren't people around you, sometimes it can be a little bit sort of tempting to kind of just get sucked into your phone, just get sucked into Facebook, Twitter, or just some messages with people. So what I do is I basically hide my phone at the start of my shift. I just go and put it somewhere else. I can't go and get it, because if I was in the office, I would think twice about pulling my phone out and just checking this and that, because I'd be surrounded by people with eyeballs on me. When you don't have that, you feel like, oh, but quick check of this. But yeah, I just go and stick it either in another room, or I go and hide it in this one somewhere, so that I have to actually physically get out of my chair to go get it, and then I don't go for it. So that's just one other little thing, because I think our whole society has that problem, to be honest, just always checking their phone.
I definitely have that problem.
It can be more pronounced if you're working from home and there's no actual other human in the room to check what you're doing. So if you can just be your own kind of check on that and just put it somewhere you can't reach it, I think it massively boosts your productivity.
I actually hate myself for how much I check my phone. I will be stood, I just can't help it. I'll be stood in the shop in a queue of one person. There's one person in front of me, and then I have to get my phone out, because I can't just stand there and wait. I have to check. Maybe something massive has happened on Twitter or something like that. So you've just reminded me. I absolutely hate myself for that. I have to try and break that habit, put my phone away. In fact,
I'm so sorry.
Do you know what? Not even joking. Just earlier on when we were recording, when he was talking, I thought I needed to check something on my phone, and it's not here. And I was like, oh, wait, where is it? I think I've left it downstairs. So it's actually weird. It's good to do that. All right, yeah, I think we'll leave it there. I think actually one thing that's going to come out of this whole situation, obviously, we're all eager to get back to normal life. At this point, I'd almost sit in a traffic jam taking the kids to school. But I do think working from home, I think it's going to make a lot of companies realise actually it's not as bad as you're thinking it is. It actually is probably easier to do. People are as productive, if not more, in certain situations, and happier. And I think commuting, I don't think anyone likes commuting, of course, especially when there's so much traffic and it might take you an hour to do a trip that should take 20 minutes. But I think this is going to make you realise how much more time there is available when you work at home and how much more flexible you can be. So if that can be a good thing, I hope some companies realise that there are lots of benefits to work from. Not everyone will like it, and I do miss sometimes I do miss being in an office where you can just turn around and talk to someone. But overall, I think the benefits are pretty big for working from home. So we'll see what happens. So I think we'll leave it there. I think we've covered quite a bit of stuff. Like I said at the start, if you want to we're going to have maybe a few main topics that aren't FPL related every single week. We've already got a few in mind, but if there's anything in particular you want us to talk about, make sure to let us know. You can just tweet the main FF Scout account if you use the hashtag #LifeWithoutFPL, it'll be easier for us to find. But if you just tweet the FF Scout account or any of our personal accounts, we'll make sure to make a note. And we might do it with different people every week. We'll figure this format out as we go. And yeah, send in any clips and stuff that you've got. But yeah, I've enjoyed doing it. Thanks very much to you guys for joining me. Yeah, I guess we'll see how it goes. We'll see what the reaction is, and we'll do it same time next week. If that sounds good to you.
Yeah. Cheers, Andy.
Cheers, having us, Andy.
Cool. Cheers to you. Thanks for listening. Let us know in the comments below what you think, whether you're listening on podcast or video. If you're on YouTube, make sure to like it, subscribe. There's plenty of content coming up. Tomorrow we will have the Football Manager FPL style. We'll see if we can finally beat Az. On Sunday there should be the video with Luke about Championship Manager FPL, and then on Tuesday it'll be Scoutcast, and then there's a bunch of stuff after that which I won't go into right now. But subscribe, hit that notification bell, and we will catch you later. Cheers all.